we've now looked at the first three of the higher, deeper relational dynamic issues that Jesus shared with the Samaritan woman. We're now coming to the fourth one, and it's going from where Jesus gave the woman the higher of telling her about this living water that would well up within her to eternal life, and that brought her down to the deeper of where she was stuck trying to figure out how that would fit into her life, which it couldn't. It doesn't fit into our lives, it gives us life. Now we're coming to the next thing Jesus said to her to lift her thoughts higher, and it is actually amazing to think about what he was doing, and I don't have time to even fathom it all, let alone explain it. So the next thing Jesus said that was a higher was he told the woman to go get her husband and bring him to her, or bring him to Jesus. Why is that a higher? Why is it a higher just because Jesus said, go bring your husband here? The reason is because in the broad context of what's going on here, Jesus is revealing things about himself that she hadn't known before. Now he's at a place of revealing his authority. So he tells her to go do something for him. There's a part of this that Jesus is showing the woman, I'm bringing you the gift of living water, but it's in me. It's about relating to me. So while this woman is saying, okay, I hear you about the living water, but how do I fit it in to my life? And Jesus, instead of explaining it, he gives her something that will force her to see it. She will see it if she... Oh my. That was a big old red-tailed hawk shouting at me. I hear ya. Pretty cool. Anyway, the woman would see it by relating to him about how he's leading her. So the thing is, go get your husband, bring him to me, is revealing the higher that Jesus has the right to lead her. And specifically, she needs him to shepherd her into the living water. He's just let her see the deep thing that she can't fit it in. She can't figure out how to fit it in. How do I get this so I don't have to keep coming back to the well? This isn't about not coming back to the well. This is about having eternal life. So Jesus confronts her with something. It'll be amazing as we see it unfold. But it begins with this higher of Jesus acting like the shepherd. Jesus is acting like the one who's in charge here. He's acting like the Lord that she needs to know. So before we see everything that goes on, we need to look at this. How, when we're in church, when we're having a Bible study, when we're reading the Word, when we're listening to things online, how does Jesus come along and suddenly bring something to mind that forces us to treat him like he's the Lord? To treat him like he's the shepherd. This woman already realized Jesus was very different than any Jewish man she'd ever met, but that's not enough. Lots of people are willing to relate to Jesus like he was a really good man, he was a really good teacher, but that's not going to give them eternal life. So Jesus lifts up this woman's thoughts to him, directing her into what he wants her to do next. And that's part of our journey with God. I've met too many church people that haven't even resolved that yet. That when they go to church, listen to a sermon, are instructed in a Bible study, that Jesus is Lord and he gets to lead us to do his will. There's too many people that haven't even thought of that, and yet they're going to church, they're treating Jesus like someone they can fit in to their lives. But Jesus didn't stop there when the woman tried to figure that out, because that's not how you get eternal life. We're starting here with the higher, that Jesus has the right and the authority as Lord to shepherd us into the living water. It's not him asking us to do it. It's him calling us to acknowledge who he is, the Lord. What was the deeper that immediately followed this? And in this you'll see the wisdom of Jesus in the way he was shepherding her into eternal life. And the deeper was, she had to say to Jesus, I have no husband. Why is that a deeper? Is it always a deeper to not have a husband? Doesn't the Bible say that singleness can be just as God-honoring as marriage? Didn't Paul say that he wishes that Christians wouldn't get bogged down with marriage and just be single and serve the Lord? So why would this be a deeper for her? And that's important, because when we look at Jesus doing this higher, deeper thing, it's not to memorize it and do the exact same thing for someone else. It's to look at how he did it and do the same kind of thing with people. Lift their thoughts higher, and then watch what deeper things come to mind, but then take them higher again. Anyway, the woman had to look deeper and admit to Jesus she had no husband. And we will see this is a very deep thing for her, because Jesus is going to show her the condition of her soul. In other words, it isn't always the case that it's a deeper for a woman to not have a husband, but in this case, that's what Jesus said to make her look deep in her soul where her sins were. It's the most genius, compassionate, gracious way of confronting this woman with her sin. Her sin of not having a husband? No. But the sin that revolved around her not having a husband, which will become very clear next in the next higher. But right now, I just want you to see the thought of this, that Jesus gave a higher. He addressed something in her life to reveal his authority as the Lord, to shepherd us into living water, and then he makes us admit what's wrong with us on the inside. That's what this is about. It's not about having a husband or not having a husband. It's about what was the condition of this woman's soul because of her experiences with men. Now, do you know anyone like that who has struggles in their relationship with God because they have issues with men? And maybe it's a dad, maybe it's a husband, maybe it's a whole bunch of men who treated a woman with disrespect. The point is, Jesus asked the question that would take the woman deep into the condition of her soul. Again, just like so many people don't want to go higher and acknowledge Jesus' authority to shepherd our souls into eternal life, there are many church people that when he puts his finger on the depths of the soul, they say, I'm out of here. I've seen it so many times. I would say the majority of people I've known in churches personally, after really loving the idea of how God works like this, they reached something in them they weren't willing to face, even just between them and God. I'm not talking about us having to pour these things out in public or even to share it with a small group. That's not what this is about. This is about us facing it if Jesus puts his finger on it. That woman got to do that. No one else was around right then. Jesus wasn't making her pour her guts out in front of people. He was getting her to go there. Go there to where your soul is crushed by broken relationships, by the way people have treated us as worthless. We have to be willing to let Jesus shepherd us to eternal life through the broken condition of our souls. We have to. Otherwise, we do what almost everyone else does in the church. We put up a barrier of self-protection. We tell Jesus, no, I will not go there. And then we go run a program or join a group or do something that makes it look like we're being good Christians. But who knows if we're actually born again? Where's the living water welling up within a person to eternal life? So as I think of applying this to you who are listening to me, it's not an issue of whether we have a spouse or not. It's an issue of what are the experiences in life that have crushed our souls, caused us to sin, and are we willing to meet Jesus there? If we're not, then don't call him Lord. Simple as that. You can't confess Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead and then say, I won't go into that deep thing he's exposing in my soul that would bring me to eternal life. We can't do that. We confess Jesus Christ is Lord because he's the shepherd of our souls. And so we let him lead us. And when we do that, it will always lead to the next higher. It will never fail. Jesus never leaves us in a deeper. He makes us go through the deepers, the valley of the shadow of death, to get to the living water where he gives rest to our souls. Please allow this higher, deeper to really touch your life where you can say, here's how the higher lifts my thoughts up, and here's how the deeper takes me into the things that are broken inside me. Do that first, and then watch for what comes next, because it's quite amazing.